Have you ever listened to a song and had a moment that the song tells about your story? I am pretty sure most of us in this room today got very excited after listening to a song and said, "Oh my god, this song is totally about me." Well, imagine a situation when someone actually listens to your story and writes a song based on it. And imagine a situation when these stories and songs are used to bring peace to people who live in conflict zones. Well, my name is Melodi, and I am a musician. It became so usual to hear from people that, "Oh, is your name fake?" Or, "Isn't that so cool that you create melodies and your name is Melodi?" Well, I just smile and say, "Yeah, maybe I am Melodi because I am a musician. Or maybe I am a musician because I am Melodi, or neither." It depends on how you interpret. But one thing I know for sure is that making music and creating songs can have a huge impact on people's lives as it has a huge impact on me. Let me tell you how. It was my third year studying in the US at Bennington College when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my winter internship. When I saw a post about documentary songwriting in cold, snowy Maine on the east coast of the US, I told myself that would be my dream internship just if I could survive the cold weather. But at the end of the day, who cares the 2-meter snow when it's about creativity and music, right? So what is documentary songwriting? It's a songwriting method based on people's spoken words. It's a creative process that was originated by Malcolm Brooks of Maine in 2009 with the idea of every life has a story and every story deserves a voice. Documentary songwriters are humanitarian musicians who are interested in human rights, oral history, community building, addiction recovery. It's a collaborative process where at least 2 people work together and no musical knowledge is needed from the people who tell their stories to us. So this is how it works. Documentary songwriters listen to people's stories, and in collaboration with the story source, then they convert the stories into lyrics without changing much of the story source's own sentences. And again, in collaboration, once they have the lyrics, they come up with a melody and they sing the song together. But what matters most at the end of the day is how we create empathy and how we create connections between people and how we really communicate our feelings with each other. There are several emotions that are expressed through documentary songs, and as you can see on the chart, the most significant one is gratitude with almost 25%, and the second one is fear with almost 17%. I had a great internship in Maine, and after having this experience, I wanted to carry this into another level, and I wanted to use music for social change. But before I tell you how I use documentary songwriting to bring peace to people who live in conflict zones, let me tell you how I really started to use music for social change. I studied social sciences, music, and public action at Bennington College in the US. And I have been interested in conflict and conflict transformations for a long time. Maybe it's because there are several ongoing conflicts in the region where I am from. It was my second year in the US when I took a course called Theater and Arts for Peace and Reconciliation, where we had to come up with a peace project using arts. At that time, I had been reading and learning a lot about Armenian-Turkish conflict, and I wanted to create a peace project between Turkey and Armenia, which I named United Harmonies. So my biggest purpose was to start a cultural exchange between Turkey and Armenia in a geography where the land border is closed and where these 2 communities have very little interaction with each other. But there were people who said, "Well, good luck, but it's not gonna be easy," as if I didn't know. My parents supported me, but some of my relatives even teased me and said, "Don't you have anything else to do? Do you want to die at an early age?" And there were even people who said that it would be too dangerous for Turkish people to travel to Armenia. and they advised us to disguise our identities. But what the hell did they know? For example, at the end of our trip in Armenia, we learned that our local driver did indeed a 180. So at the beginning of our trip, our local driver refused to have Turkish participants in his car. Somehow he was persuaded, but as he spent more and more time with each other, he loved us. And at the end of the trip, he even invited us to his house. Imagine, from extreme prejudice to extreme hospitality. And there was even one moment where we were in a taxi in Armenia, and the local driver learned that we were from Turkey. I am not kidding. For 5 minutes, he tried to arrange us a Turkish radio channel so we could just listen to Turkish songs in his car. To be honest, I wasn't expecting those beautiful moments, but I was ready for this big challenge. So I applied for a peace project grant given by Davis Foundation, and I got the grant to implement this project. So what I did was, I found 4 musicians from Turkey and 4 musicians from Armenia. We traveled to each other's country, we learned each other's music culture, and at the end we gave concerts in both countries, Turkey and Armenia. And we sang our songs in 3 languages, Turkish, Armenian, and English. And this is a picture from our concert in Istanbul. And yes, we showed that these 2 cultures in conflict could actually come together and produce something very unique and beautiful and create a really nice friendship. So after having this project, I wanted to challenge myself more. Yes, I love pain. So while I was thinking how I could combine documentary songwriting with human rights issues, I found myself having a summer vacation in Cyprus, a beautiful country but with an ongoing conflict between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. Cyprus is an island on Mediterranean Sea which has been divided since 1974 as a result of violent clashes between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. And these 2 communities don't live together anymore. Turkish Cypriots live on the north part of Cyprus, and Greek Cypriots live on the south part of Cyprus. So while I was wandering in Cyprus, I found myself at the buffer zone, and in front of the civic organization called Home for Cooperation, which supports peace activities between these 2 communities. But let me first describe how it feels to be at the buffer zone. Do you recognize any other city in the world which has been divided since Berlin? Nicosia is divided, but unlike Berlin, it is not divided by walls. Instead, there is a buffer zone between the official gates to each side. And there comes the magic. Buffer zone is alive. Buffer zone is a place where peace activities happen and where these 2 communities interact with each other more. So imagine you enter a zone where you have to show your ID each time you enter. You are not allowed to take any pictures or photos. No doubt it's serious, but there is magic in it. So if you just stand in front of Home for Cooperation, your left hand points to the region where Turkish Cypriots live, and your right hand points to the region where Greek Cypriots live. So you are just in the middle. You feel a little bit restricted in between the boundaries. But at the same time, you are at this magical spot. You feel like you are at the center of everything, the bridge between past, present, and future. Remember this magical spot, which I'm gonna come back. So after having this magical moment, I wanted to do my internship in Home for Cooperation and wanted to start the first part of my second peace project called Songs Across Boundaries. I applied for a peace project grant again, and I got the grant twice. So as you can imagine, I was over the moon. So my biggest aim was to collect peace stories from both Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots convert their stories into songs by using documentary songwriting technique, and then performing these songs in concerts in Cyprus. I wanted to bring these two communities together where they could learn each other's stories and songs and where they could create deeper bonds. The stories were about the friendship between the two communities, hidden by communal marriages, neighborhood relationships, or the solidarity between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. So, as I collected more stories, I met beautiful people in Cyprus. And I recognized that in order to collect stories from Greek Cypriot community, I needed to cross the border to go to the south part of Cyprus where Greek Cypriots live. Was it easy though? Have you ever had the trouble of going to somewhere which was just 1 minute away from where you were? No, right? At the end of the day, if you are not sick or lost, it's just 1 minute away. But if the politics is your main enemy, then this 1 minute walk can become a one-day journey. No foreigners are allowed to go to the south part of Cyprus if they are first landed on the north. Additionally, Turkish citizens are not allowed to go to the south part of Cyprus without a visa. But the only place we can get the visa is Greece. So remember this magical spot. If you just turn right and go for 1 minute, you are at the border and you can literally enter the Greek Cypriot side. But in order for me to do that, I needed to fly back 500 miles, first to Istanbul, then to Greece, then to the south part of Cyprus where Greek Cypriots live. So this 1 minute journey became this weird triangle as you can see on the map. And the story became even more interesting when I arrived in my hotel in the south part of Cyprus. I did my bookings weeks before and I was sure that nothing could go wrong after this long journey. I said my name to the guy at the reception and he looked at my face as if I was an alien from outer space. He just for some reasons couldn't find my name on the list. I waited and waited and waited. He was just struggling. And I asked, what's wrong? I did my bookings. I am from Turkey. That sentence solved our mystery. His eyes were shining. He was mesmerized and shocked. He was like, you are from Turkey. And I said, yes. So this guy literally thought that my booking was a mistake or a joke just because Turkish citizens rarely visit the south part of Cyprus. So he just took my name off the list. And when he learned that I was from Turkey, he was just so happy. And finally, I could go to my room, looking at these beautiful Greek Cypriot houses from my balcony, thinking that maybe I was the first and only Turkish citizen staying in his hotel. So at the end, I collected 10 peace stories from both communities and I converted their stories into songs. And these are some of the people whom I work with who told their stories to me. And the stories varied from each other. Some stories included solidarity. For example, a Greek Cypriot man carrying and hiding a Turkish Cypriot family in his potato truck to cross the border during the conflict. Or a separated Turkish woman and a Greek Cypriot woman who come back after 50 years later when the borders were open again. Or hidden by communal marriages. So I just want to share one of the peace stories I collected, which is called Why Us? It is told by a Greek Cypriot man, and I just want to sing what he says. Everyone suffered so much, we ask why it was us. All we wanted was our family. what he says becomes really important, not only when we think about the conflicts in Cyprus, but all around the world. Yes, it can happen to any of us, and we might lose the control of our lives. Peace can turn into conflict for so many reasons. So why us is a rebel against those situations where we lose the control of our lives. But he also invites us to see the possibilities that there should be a chance to fight against those situations which bring us only pain. He says, like in the past, let's live together as siblings, as friends. So last summer, I gave 3 concerts in Cyprus with the local musicians, and I invited all the storytellers to my concert, and we had a great moment. And this project is going to continue in the future. We already recorded all those songs in a studio with the local musicians, and we plan to turn this into a CD album. I already put all the songs on YouTube under Songs Across Boundaries. And Nicosia Municipal Orchestra showed a great interest in those songs, and now they want to play and perform those songs next year in their program. I believe that as more people hear those stories and songs, the more they will change their opinions about the current conflict in Cyprus and the way they see the other culture. I had people who came up to me after the concerts and said, these stories and songs were very effective to remind people of their peaceful past, shared history, and common humanity. And that was the moment when I recognized that documentary songwriting could be actually used for humanitarian purposes. I have been recently told that the people who worked in documentary songwriting organization have been highly influenced by my Cyprus project, and now they came up with new ideas and projects. Now, it's being used to help women who have been raped or sexually abused. Now, it's being used to give veteran soldiers a voice. And this spring, it is going to be used to help African refugees awaiting asylum in Belgium. I just want to end my presentation with one of the other peace stories I collected, which is called Famagusta Walls. And it is told by a Greek Cypriot man called Kostis. So Kostis and the Turkish Cypriot man called Sarper meet in a peace gathering where they share each other's stories from the past. Kostis tells a story about how his brother was wounded during the conflict. And Sarper asks him a lot of questions, how he was wounded, where he was wounded. And Kostis just tries to understand why Sarper asks him a lot of questions. And Sarper says, I also fought in the same place, near Famagusta Walls. And I'm afraid maybe I was the one who hurt your brother. And Kostis says, don't worry, it was not you. It was the mortar who hurt my brother. And after this interaction, they become best friends, and they start to call each other Gardaş, which means brother in Turkish. And they try to support each other in every way. Yes, it can happen to any of us. We might lose the control of our lives. We might not know where we will end up in the future, and peace can turn into conflict for so many reasons. But once we are ready for friendship, once we are ready to think beyond certain labels, certain restrictions, certain boundaries, not only our music and songs can cross the border, but also we as people can cross the boundaries. Now, I will just sing the part of Famagusta Walls to end my presentation. We call each other Gardaş, Gardaş. We share each other's lives with my guard eyes. I turned to him and said, for you I will be always there. There, for you I will be always there. Thank you.